Hi,
Good
parents.
evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Our guest tonight is Vechi Mutum from Treehouse Recovery. He joins us tonight to talk about the family puzzle, specifically our recovering loved one and the dynamic of learning how families can fit back together, especially after so much has changed. Vechi, we're excited to hear from you. And if you're ready to begin, we are ready to learn.
Perfect. I want to thank everybody for taking the time. This is a concept that I've been working on for a while. It's something I've experienced in my own recovery with my own mom. A lot of you guys have seen my video. A lot of you know that my mother was the catalyst for my life changing almost 11 and a half years ago. So this is very personal to me. It's very deep to me, and I'm still working the kinks out a little bit. But I feel safe with our moms and our parents out there. I love you guys. I love everything you're doing for the moms out there. I wish this place had been around when my mom needed help. So if you'll bear with me, I'm still working out the kinks of some of this. I've got if you guys could see, I am looking at a contraption that is constructed out of a ladder, a laptop table, and what looks like a tripod. So if things go funny at any given moment, just I ask for your patience and leniency. But the concept is important, and I think a lot of you can relate to it. So if you can give me just 1 second, I'm going to grab a marker real quick. I'll be right back. Okay. So that was our wonderful admissions office here at Treehouse, by the way. Um, so when you have somebody who's in recovery, when you have somebody who's in a cycle of use, there are many different facets to it. Now, I need to be clear to start off. This is not saying that anyone is at fault. This is not saying that anyone is to blame. These are just some of the components that are there. And these components may be due to the perception of the individual. There may be a bright and happy and beautiful home, but as far as my perspective goes, I may think that I was set aside or disheveled or not always allowed to get the attention that I wanted, right? So it's not always based in reality. This is just from the perspective of the addict in recovery sometimes, and also from the perspective, the outside perspective of the person looking at the whole dynamic. We're going to look at the entire picture of the individual and their dynamics. And we're going to look at all the different things that feed into them. So a way I thought I could do this was using a puzzle piece. I don't know if any of you guys do these big puzzles. Sometimes there are 1,000 pieces of these huge, intricate puzzles with beautiful pictures. And that's not what this is. And I hope you guys can see this okay. Can you see this okay up here? Okay, so when we have a picture, it's got, first of all, this picture, what's on this picture, was drawn by somebody else, meaning we as children had no say so in the dynamics. We didn't pick the color. We didn't pick the family members. We didn't pick the environment. We didn't pick the social status. We didn't pick any of this. This picture was painted by somebody else. And yet here, we, or to make it more personal, I am in the middle. That's me. Now, as you can see, or if you can imagine, a beautiful picture painted over this with colors and people and all these different things. And you see my puzzle piece. During my use, this puzzle piece was plugged into several different things, not all of them healthy. I had, we'll call this my codependent little piece right here, right? This was with my mom, big mom here. Not her fault, mine, because I knew how to trigger her. As a parent, I was an emotional terrorist. I made my mom to blame for everything. I knew whenever she missed the mark or didn't fulfill my needs. My mom's a single mom, so there was a lot of room there. I was one of three. I was the oldest sibling. So this was me relying on my mom super, super heavily. This is me having no independence whatsoever. Let's say this little niche right here is the environment I'm in. Let's say this is the city I live in, right? Socioeconomic status, the people I'm around, what I'm doing, the drugs that may or may not be available, the things that are considered acceptable. This piece up here, say this huge deficit, this indent that we see here is a lack of self-confidence, no self-worth. Come over here to this side. Now we've got sabotage. Or better yet, let's say compensatory skill sets. These are the ones that get us through difficult times. I lose my job, but I don't relapse. Something doesn't go my way, or my girlfriend breaks up with me, or the husband shows up, whatever occurs. I don't have that. So I have to plug into the rest of this picture here to get what I need from that. In order to survive, I need to make sure I'm plugged in here to mom. There's my city. This is my familial relationships for my brother and my sister, where I either take or withdraw. All these different pieces are at play. And during usage, any change in any of these pulls on the others. It's a mix, it's a dynamic, it's a picture. So that's at the beginning of addiction. We have all these different things at play. The area that we're in, we've got triggers as well that may be around from the place we're in. We've got, let's see, lack of positive community. We've got self-hate, no independence, none. We are dependent upon everybody. I couldn't do anything on my own. So I'm dependent on, I mean, we could even call these different pieces people or environments or dependent on the system or the state or whatever it may be. So this is how we show up, or this is how I showed up into recovery with all of these deficits and all of these pieces and all this dependency on these outside inputs, some healthy, some not. Vechi shows up and they go to a center. And this puzzle piece is me. We remove this puzzle piece from these inputs. So the city's removed. Mom is removed for a little bit directly. Um, the skill sets stay, the triggers are removed. All these different things that plug into this bigger picture for the moment are removed. And now we have a piece that's pulled out. And I'm going to do this really quick, so please forgive me. I was not an artist. I didn't go to art school. Um, so please forgive me on this. All right, we're going to survive. Okay, so here's a basic idea of what that piece is. And while we're in treatment, where there was no self-worth, we start building some. We start building a little bit of self-worth. When we're in treatment, we realize that we're solely dependent upon mom. We've never dealt with any of the consequences of our own actions because why should I? I knew that when I was in trouble, my mom would bail me out. Why? Because she loved her son. She wanted her son to be okay. Let's not stop okay. She didn't want her son on the street. She didn't want her son starving. She didn't want her son running around with the people that she's running around with. But I knew that. And I would use it to leverage mom. So mom's out of the picture now. I'm on my own. So this piece has changed a little bit too now. All these pieces, all these segments of this piece get worked on. So where we had a lack of self-worth, we're building confidence in my ability as a human being to do things on my own. Where there was a dependency on the outside to do certain things, where I had to pull off everybody, now I add to. But these are all beautiful things, right? This is what we want for our family members in recovery. This is what everybody wanted for me. This is what my mom wanted for me. The environment changed. Why is that important? What's so big deal about the environment change? This is his home, right? Something that is important to remember is as addicts is we use our home environments as places we are safe and comfortable using. It's not strange for us to use in this. In fact, it's almost odd not to. The environment changes. The individual changes. We start to work on things like behavioral patterns. We're finally able to look at our own parts and things instead of blaming the family dynamic or the environment. These are all very, very positive things that occur. The problem is that when this piece changes, and you see it's changed here, and I'm sorry, I do know that I'm jumping across a little bit, but as this piece changes, and maybe I don't have to be dependent on mom anymore. Maybe mom can depend on me, or at least not stress her out. Guys, this puzzle piece changes in a good way. And it changes because where it had codependency, it now has independency and mutual benefit. It changes because where it was in an environment that was supporting all these different triggers and negative behaviors, since it's been out of that environment, it's been able to build new skill sets, relapse prevention skills, a self-knowledge about triggers and where these things come from. Maybe it comes from the park or school or my bedroom or whatever it may be. The self-worth and self-hate has turned into self-acknowledgement and understanding of who I am and where I'm going in my life. I realize that if I fail, I'm not going to fall apart. I can pick myself up again. I'm not made of glass. I've got grit. I've got strength. And these things come from within. I don't have to pull from the outside anymore. Now, these are all great things. You're like, Vechi, I don't see what the problem is. Here's where we run into our first problem. Parents, this piece doesn't fit here anymore. And if this is home or success to you, the only way this human here fits back in this puzzle piece is if we take back out that self-worth. We re-engineer some of that codependency. This piece, the healthy one, the healed one, wants to be a part of this picture when it's drawn. The reason it needs to be a part of that picture when it's drawn is because one of the key things that is integral to the life of anyone sober is purpose. When you get past the self-hate, when you get past the low self-esteem, when you get past the fear that you're not strong enough to do something, and you realize you can manage just a little bit, your world opens up. And you want to start to paint your own picture. And yes, you want your family to be a part of it. And yes, you want your home to be a part of it. And in some cases that may be possible. But in most of them and in mine, it was not. For me to go back to this environment, to be in the places I was, with the people I was with, even the family members I had, meant I would have to return the purposeful puzzle piece that's sober and alive and thriving. And I would have to take some of those things away to fit back into the old picture. And the problem being is the old picture painted me as a drug addict. No strength, no self-worth, no resiliency. So these relationships have to be re-engineered. And that's a good thing. That's a healthy thing. I've got a couple boys now. You guys know this. I'm a parent. Um, I hope I'm around for my boys as long as I possibly can be. But the truth of the matter is none of us are going to live forever. And they have got to know that from this little puzzle piece that they've worked so hard and designed on their own, there's an entire world and a whole new picture they can paint with a wife or a husband or a job or a career that they can put all the colors and beautiful things that they want to fill with. And they're going to get to make a say so on those. And they're going to have that opportunity because they got rid of the things that kept them in this picture. The other people in this picture, these other pieces, they're not bad. They're not evil. They're not wrong. But all these things together in unison carved a very intricate piece out of me. And that one couldn't stay sober. that one used. So you guys know, obviously, I got sober. I found some strength. I started to work on things. I started to work on my codependent relationships. I took some inventory. I did what I needed to do. And after about 2 years, it was found out, or it came to the realization that for some of the things that I wanted to do with my life, there were a bunch of these puzzle pieces that just didn't fit anymore. There were some of these puzzle pieces that were so upset about it that they would have rather held me back than let me go forward. When your child comes back, as they're building things, as they're creating new lives, be prepared for them to make adjustments. And as much as our feelings are hurt by them, as long as they're healthy and positive, we need to be supportive of them. It's their turn to draw the picture. We want you to be a part of it, but sometimes it's not going to look exactly how you want it to look. Um, if you guys have, I'm sorry, if you guys have any questions at all on this or pieces of this, I got a whole list here. This is my first time doing this, so I'd like to answer any questions you might have. Please let me know. And again, thank you again for being patient. I know this is kind of rough. It's something I've been working on for a while. I would like to do it much more refined eventually. So any input you guys have, I would greatly appreciate as well.
So one thing, Vechi, I wonder, in the recovery world, we hear the term love them where they're at a lot. We hear it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say then that as our recovering loved one comes back into the dynamic of things,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what that means, right? Allow them the changes that they've made in their lives in
Yeah.
order to fit back into our world.
Yes.
Did
And
that make
listen,
any sense?
it did. And moms and dads, listen, not all of these choices are going to be great ones, okay? They're not. But here's the thing. This person, this piece, if it's going to survive, has got to learn how to start to make decisions. And when they fail, how to pick themselves up from them. A friend of mine told me this years ago, and I shared it with a new friend of mine the other day. Do not steal from your children the dignity of failure.
Hmm.
Let them fall on their face a little bit. Mom, oh my God, I switched that one job. I went to this job and oh no, and like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. The rent's short and, I can't pay my phone bill. Like, what am I going to do? I understand. I love you. Let me know what you do to figure it out. These are skill sets you're going to need. And then
Terry
they
had,
learn. And do you know what
right.
happens when they learn? They get a little confident. It's like the first time you're in a, I don't want to compare it to anything violent, but the first time you fall and you're like, oh my God, I'm finished. And then you kind of shake yourself off a little bit and you go, wait a minute, I'm not finished. I made a mistake. And I learned from that. I'm going to make some more mistakes, but I'm going to put some thought in front of them. And as long as I'm healthy and they're sober mistakes, I'm going to employ reasoning. This is going to make me stronger.
Excellent. Terry has a question for us. Vechi,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have any information or data slash statistics that relate success in recovery at home or away from home, or any percentages of those success rates that might relate?
Data wise, I don't. I mean, I can tell you, I've been in the industry now. I got in the industry pretty quick. I was only about 6 months sober when I started doing what I do. But it's been a while. Um, it really depends on the dynamic and it's very individualized. If there's still enabling taking place or hostage taking by the child, and the parents are still uncomfortable setting that firm bound, like that's a setup for failure on both parties, on both sides. Um, I haven't seen a lot of success with that. I've seen people change things from careers, who they were. what they do, who they associate with, um, the foods they eat, the type of partner they choose. Um, I've seen some pretty drastic changes on both sides, but whether or not, as far as hard data, I don't. I will share with you guys though that off the top of my head, uh, one of the key pieces is failure to launch, which is meaning children who have never left the home or come back to the home. Um, if it's a failure to launch, and we're talking about somebody between the ages of 18 to 30 who's never left the home, there is no reason for them to return back there. We are talking about a full-grown adult. They need to stand on their own 2 feet. However, that arrangement is modified. Um, you have to be mindful of a reinforcement to them of you cannot survive on your own. You do need me. Um, if it was given to somebody who didn't struggle the way we as addicts struggle with taking appropriate use of things like that, instead of using them to our advantage to get what we want to get, it would be a different story.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Betsy, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
Betsy says, my daughter's therapist wants her to reconcile with me, and I can accept her as a new person, but I'm not ready to accept her back into my life. How do I get to that point? She still blames me for things I didn't even say or do.
Well, first of all, good for you. Um, just because they've decided and I talk to my guys about this quite a bit. Okay, so listen, parents, I've got your back on this side too, because they always wonder, why are they still mad at me? What's going on? I've changed. Look, buddy, you spent the last 6 months doing great. That's amazing. We want to push that. We got to remember that these parents, these moms and dads, are responding to the horror that we've put them through for the last 5, 10 years. Phones ring. Is it an overdose? Is he dead? Is she gone? What's going on? We show them what we do. We need to show them that we can do better, and that's going to take some time. So, whenever you're ready, and I think it's important to communicate that too. Like, listen, daughter, I love you. I'm glad you're doing great. I want you to keep doing great. I need a little bit of time to process through some of this on my own. You're healing and getting help. I'm healing and getting help. I love you. I appreciate you. I am so happy that you're continuing on your path. I'm going to do some work on me for a little bit. I'm not ready to have you back in right now. That's an
Sounds
expression of boundaries. And that's an opportunity for her to go back to her therapist and go, hey, wait a minute. I've done everything I was supposed to do. Did what you said. I went back and now they don't want to talk to me. And her therapist can open up that conversation and go, okay, why do you think that is? Is mom a human being? Is mom, does, does she deserve to have feelings hurt and times to process? I think she does. I think the mere thought that it's just you who need to process and heal from these things is a little entitled and self-serving. We've caused damage. Now let's get to how can we repair that? And what's that going to take? And sometimes what it takes to repair that is time.
all right. Well, we do have another question then. Vicky says,
Again,
how do you help your son when he's on the fence about rehab? I don't want to push I don't want to push him, but I want to push him. I try to encourage, but he's up and down. How can I help him without being too pushy or giving an ultimatum?
you may not be able to. Boundary setting is required. Here's the thing, and I'm going to be super honest with you. The catalyst to me getting well was demanding or asking for a $20 sleeping bag, $20, right? My mom said no. Eventually I got cold enough on the street where I'm like, I'm done. This is it. And I went and I got help on my own. I don't know the particulars of the situation, but if this individual is comfortable, has a roof over his head, bills are paid, can get his drugs when he wants, doesn't really have any worries, doesn't have to go through any consequences of what's going on, why would he get sober? I mean, I wouldn't have. If I could figure out a way to stay at home in my mom's house that she just bought, she's paying my truck payment, she's carrying me on her insurance, right? I get to run out and use whenever I want. If I don't like what she says, I close the door or hit ignore on the texts. I would have rang another 6 months out of that. You've got to set, sorry, for me, a boundary had to be set, which is I love you and I will support you, but I will not add inertia to the addiction killing my kid. Won't do it. You will not weaponize my love for my son as fuel for the addiction that's going to kill him. Won't participate. I'm so sorry. Unless it's made so uncomfortable for them that they decide they have to get help, they will stay and wring out every last dollar, every last second, every last, it's just a hotel room for one more night, every last, please just pay off this credit card. I won't do it again. I'm sorry. I've learned my lesson, until there's just nothing left. So figure out what your boundaries are. If you're paying the rent, if you're covering the bills, realize that you may be playing a part in supporting the momentum of this behavior and this addiction. Is that the reason why they haven't gone to get help? Excuse me. Is because they have those things taken care of? Okay.
Thanks for this, Vechi. There's so many takeaways from this. Wow, you've given us a lot. We understand how important it is for everyone in our families to heal and grow. And we so much appreciate the time that you give to us here at the Addict's Mom. We hope you'll continue to come on with us and help us learn more.
Thank you guys. Appreciate your time and
So,
patience.
yeah, we love having you here. Thanks again so much.